beautiful people. Happy Sunday. Hi to the dwellers, hi to the newcomers, hi to the regulars, and hi to the wanderers. Is it 26? Wow, time's flying. Regardless, it's great to be able to answer questions that people have looking for just insight on some lived experience from a trans woman, and sometimes just thoughts of a trans woman about general day-to-day stuff too. Absolutely love it. It's let's call it a bounce back week. It's been I can speak for myself at least, and I'm sure many who listen to this could certainly empathize over the past while, especially since the beginning of November. Let's say that November has many trans awareness moments in it, of course. Trans Awareness Week and Trans Day of Remembrance, and then shortly thereafter, right at the tail end of November and going into December, is 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence. Last week on Monday was National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women. Just a couple days ago would have been International Human Rights Day, which for anyone who's known me for a while knows I actually have a special place in my heart for International Human Rights Day. I've always been aware of the day since its advent. Not to say that I've always been an advocate about it, because in a pre-transition life I was very quiet about advocacy, because I had a very large barrier between the life that I was presenting versus the life that I knew was my inevitability. But there was a huge brick wall between the two of those, and I did not allow myself to appreciate the life that I currently live. But I've always been aware of it, and especially after I came out and allowed myself to come out and allowed my voice to be as strong as it has every right to be, that and many other days, of course, have shown relevance. But as I mentioned, for anyone who's known me for a while, especially after I went socially full-time, I ended up filing for my legal name change, change of sex designation, and then, of course, applying for a new birth certificate all at the same time in the middle of August of last year. It took longer than what the standard practice would have been in a pre-COVID era, largely because of cuts that were done to vital stats. So for staffing and whatnot too, and it was just interesting because of the ambiguity of when things would get done. We knew that there was going to be a period of time, even when I was talking to a senior from Vital Stats. They were saying that it would definitely take months, but what's months? So anyway, that I filed, got everything through in the mailbox when it was all said and done, notarized the set and whatever from in August, and I know that the process was going through, because in the beginning of September, it was certainly right at the very, very beginning of September that I got a letter in the mail back from Vital Stats that had a receipt pretty much, right? They're like, hey, all right, everything's good to go. We took your money, now just wait for us. And that even included needing to go to the commissioner's office to go get fingerprinted and whatever. And then that fingerprint information goes to the RCMP for them to go ahead and make sure that, if someone's doing a name change or whatnot, that the fingerprints follow along with it, yada, yada, yada. And that was affirmed. Oh man, I can't remember the date off the top of my head, but the 4th or the 9th or the 19th or something like that. Those are all days that are just kind of ringing a bell as to when I was even having some email correspondence with RCMP about, yep, it's good to go. Went to Vital Stats, the rest is on them. But then it's limbo time. You're like, all right, where is it? And I'd have to sit and wait. I can't do anything about it. And it's not like I'm the only person asking for a birth certificate or whatever. Babies being born, there were people getting married and divorced and so on and yada, yada, yada. And then eventually the birth certificate finally showed up in the mail. It showed up, I believe, December 14th. However, the date that it was issued was December 10th, International Human Rights Day. And I gave a little hall pass to how long it took, because I'm like, this wasn't intentional. And if it was, that's cute, right? But really long time of sitting in limbo wondering where my birth certificate is. But I'm happy to see that the date that it was issued is a very meaningful date for a trans individual. So regardless, right, when it comes to all of the events that I was mentioning earlier, right, whether Trans Awareness Week last month, Trans Day of Remembrance last month, 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence, National Day of Remembrance and Action Against Violence Against Women, also International Human Rights Day. It's been a very long couple of months, and it's been a very long year overall, where it certainly feels to many as if we're going in the right direction, and in many ways that we are. The one of the most alarming obstacles, however, is the resistance is not passive. And that is where the alarming feature comes in, that inclusion is often touted as inclusion, where the reality is that the actions about it are really kind of nothing more than acceptance. I know I'm kind of sounding all like poetic. Inclusion denounces hate. Inclusion actively excludes bigotry and hate. Acceptance creates a safe space, right, by proxy for marginalized individuals. But there's a big difference between acceptance and inclusion. And unfortunately, as I was mentioning about all those previous days and those remembrance moments and the calls to action and whatnot, that not enough is being done to silence hate. Not enough is being done to take the floor away from bigotry and hate. And so as I mentioned, that those days are fantastic and they're meaningful, and they absolutely have to continue to be amplified. The calls to action really need to be underlined that just not being hateful isn't good enough, if that kind of makes sense. That I've said it numerous times in numerous places, but being accepting is just being normal. It's not that it's bad, but you're not doing anything fantastic by just being a good human being. You're a window, you're invisible. That doesn't stop hate from doing its thing. The people who talk about acceptance and promote inclusion have to create those actions to show that inclusion denounces the bigotry and the hatred and everything that comes along with it. So anyway, that's an introduction. Got a little longer than I wanted, right? It's but I don't know. It's just kind of always get in the moment when I think of December 10th, because it was a very special day for me. So let's get into Dwell On It. We'll just say hello again to the newcomers and the wanderers. Dwell On It is a series where individuals from all across the lands send questions by a variety of mediums, such as DMs and emails, and sometimes even people who know me personally with a tap on the shoulder, and I take a note about it and whatever. Ask questions about lived experience from the point of view of a trans individual. They can ask based on their own curiosity. They might want answers. They perhaps might want guidance. They might want to compare notes. And then sometimes it's not always about lived experience from a trans woman. It could just be, do you prefer cats and dogs? I am a cat person, but I will pet either feverishly. Okay, let's get into this. I've got a grab bag that is certainly ready to go with more than enough note cards in it still. Is there anything about transitioning that you wish you could experience for the first time again? Wow. Does anyone remember that time I was talking about receiving my birth certificate? How awesome is that? Oh man. Okay, so that's cool, but that 100%, because I honestly, in hindsight, I feel like I was glowing when I was talking about it, because it was so exciting to me, because for me, that was my, I guess we can call it a finish line. And to add context with that, transitioning is not a static experience. Transitioning is a variety of experiences for a variety of people through a variety of ways that provide a variety of results. There's no right or wrong way to be trans. And so the start of your transition and the end of your transition is very, very unique to the individual themselves. Some trans individuals feel that their transition starts the moment that they begin to take, medication or hormone replacement therapy, and it can perhaps end when they've gone through a series of medical procedures and surgeries that they feel is important for their body, and are able to achieve what is, I share the words to just compress context, because if I was to say that they present themselves in public as not visibly trans, that is with no question the appropriate way to say it. But if you don't understand what I mean by that, common terms would be stealth or passing. Personally, not a huge fan of the word passing, because it sounds like there's this expectation of like sneaking around, right? But when the intent of the word is to not carry what would be presumed as socially identifying features of a gender that you are not trying to present as. And similarly enough, in a more delicate way when it comes to stealth, is to be able to just maneuver through public and society without anybody identifying any features that would be considered to be of a gender that you are not trying to present as. When you are discussing an individual, and if you were to perhaps discuss their visibility in public, as I mentioned, using words like visibly trans and not visibly trans is the appropriate way to say things. I'm visibly trans. I own it. I know it. And I'm okay with that. I stand tall when I walk wherever I walk. I've got swagger, especially when I'm in a good mood. Especially really if I'm listening to music, right? I have bounce in my step, but I'm proud of who I am and 100% proud of who I am. And I'm not saying that I'm in a different tier than other people, but there is an issue with society of the response that society acts on because of their impression and their fears and their intolerances. I've said to numerous people, whether it's, counselors or Joe Public or police officers or whatever, I can be in my best state of mind any day of the week, because there's always you can't always live in fear or whatever. I can be in my best state of mind. I can be in the most confident place that I could possibly ever be in, but some bigot might feel that they're serving the community or country a favor by culling me from the neighborhood because I sound different than what they would prefer. It doesn't matter how I feel when it's someone else's inability to regulate their emotions that is the real issue. And so that it goes back to the desire for many trans individuals to not present identifying features, not for their own comfort, but for their own safety. So that could be part of their transition, right? Where they feel finally safe. Everyone's got a different way to look at things. Everyone's got a different way to carry things. I know that my story is going to get written no matter what happens in my life, right? Whether it's the things that I do myself and I continue to add to my book, or whatever gets done to me will be amplified by people who will look at the people who have and systems who have failed me. So I walk tall. I walk with my shoulders up. I walk proud. And I'm visibly trans. I've been on HRT since February 1st of 2020. And it is essentially puberty 2.0. Boobs don't show up in a week, and so on and so on and so on. And with that I'm in no rush to go ahead and choose to do breast augmentation surgery, which I really have zero interest in the first place. And even the same when it comes to downstairs. I've mentioned it many times in the past, and literally tongue-in-cheek, if I ever do anything big downstairs, it likely would be because of vanity. Really. Like, the orky that I'm scheduled for is just like, I'm 40, I'm not having kids. It's purely technical, and it takes one medication off of the shopping list, because then if I don't have testes, then I don't need to worry about testosterone blockers. And even to the point when it comes to the puberty 2.0, to kind of relate things in a similar way, people could look at where they are in their transition based on stats or numbers or whatever. Like, they're all things that are created. And for example, the last lab that I got back, I believe the number that I was told, I don't remember all the details behind it. The number that they used was 328. And if I remember a very brief Google that I looked after about that, for an average cis female, when it comes to estrogen, right, or the variety thereof, estradiol, in the bloodstream, I believe can vary between 38 and 350, give or take, depending on pretty much what week of the month it is. And so to have the estradiol or estrogen or whatever in my system pretty much at the top level of an average cisgender female was neat. And then to go on top of that, the testosterone levels in my in the blood, the lab test and whatever, is non-detectable. To some people, that is where they consider the finish line for transitioning. So many different ways that people can go ahead and define what their transition starts and ends as. So anyway, that was tangented in a lot, but I'd like to just create that context of what does a finish line look like for transitioning? And the answer is, who are you asking? My finish line was just getting my name changed. I'm fully aware that everything else that I experience is not unique to a trans individual. Many people take medications, including the same medications that I take. Women who go through menopause take the same medications that I do. Some men who also may be dealing with some health or medical issues in their areas of bits and pieces also could be taking the same medications that I take to go ahead and, whether it's alleviate the situation or minimize any further damage until they're able to go ahead and have surgical intervention or whatever. Body affirming surgeries such as breast augmentation or top surgery for trans men or non-binary masculine individuals. Many people, right, still go ahead and have similar surgeries on either side of the fence for their own needs. Again, it could be for a medical reason or it could be for a personal reason. As I was even saying about other surgeries, so if it comes to something like facial feminization surgery, some people end up, they'll go ahead and have perhaps a rhinoplasty just for their own reason that they want to be more comfortable with their face. They could end up being in a car accident, and I hate using such a tragic example, but I'm not wrong. They could be in a car accident and need reconstructive surgery. So, and none of those are exclusively trans things. Even when it comes to something like changing the name, that you look at the stuff that happens after the fact, right, where you're changing your identifications, right, your driver's license, your passport, your credit cards, the information on whether it's your rent or your mortgage, your banking information, your workplace information, benefits information if necessary, pharmacy information, health information, fucking points cards information, all of those things. People change their names for whatever reason they want to. They perhaps could, want to break away from a family. They might get married. They might be getting divorced. There are so many other reasons why names change and people file for name changes. So that's all just technical administrative stuff. For me, getting the name change and seeing it on a piece of paper, it's not just me talking out to the public now saying my name is Taylor Elizabeth LaChrist. That is my chosen name, and this is the name that I want to use going forward. So not only was that a personal to public affirmation and expecting respect from everyone coming back, it is now a legal document. It says your name is Taylor Elizabeth LaChrist. And then with that, I can start doing all of those little add-ons that I was talking about. The day that I got it, right, or the day after that I got it, I should say, ran down to, to the MPI to, get a new driver's license and started like doing everything that I can to start changing, like, because now it's done, and I was elated, and that feeling of getting that affirmation and having that piece of paper saying that we recognize you for who you are was just a moment of euphoria that I don't know if I could describe well enough. It was such a moment. If there had to be a runner-up to that, the first time that I looked in the mirror after putting an outfit on and just being super happy with myself is what stood out next. And it was just a basic outfit, really. It was probably a couple months after I went full-time. And it was a super basic outfit. It was a gray top with a white kind of lace-shouldered tank and just some black jeans that were distressed. And that was it. And honestly, it was a hat, a ball cap. But, put it together. I was super happy with it. Just seeing happiness back in the mirror. And I don't mean happiness by being like seeing a different face or anything like that, but seeing, like, not criticizing anything at all. Seeing my own eyes shining. And of just being like, you're here, and I've already been there for a while, but it's just that stop judging yourself. Stop, like, you're in a better place. Stop criticizing. You're great. You're beautiful. You're happy. And this time I didn't have to do any of that. I looked in the mirror. I'm like, yeah. And then, I carry on with my day, and it's like, holy shit, that just happened. And I kept texting a bunch of friends being like, I am so happy right now. That would, like I said, that would be a runner-up. But getting that birth certificate was, wow, that was a moment that I cherish, and I remember just sinking into my chair because I'm like, I'm done. Hardly done, right? Like, there's still lots of work just in general that needs to be done, right? But that's advocacy stuff. But like, for me, I'm like, that's it. I'm at my finish line. It was great. I loved it. I know I went long already, so let's hope that the next one isn't going to be as long. Fuck. This one will be long. Whatever. This is going to be a fun one, I hope. And I'm going to preface this where this one's going to get me right in the feels. Because if anyone knows me well enough, this is pretty much my heartbeat. And pardon the pun. What does someone who wants to love you need to know? Is there anything that someone you love needs to know? Okay, so the reason why I went, fuck, and the reason why I'm saying this one gets me right in the feels is, like, I love Love makes me so happy. Seeing people in love it's the warmest, nicest feeling. Knowing that someone is cared for, knowing that someone is carrying beautiful things and they just bring me happiness. I've struggled with love, but not by not being able to love. As a matter of fact, like as I've grown up through life, let's put it this way, I felt desperate for not only love, but I felt desperate that I needed to be the best person that someone I was trying to love would ever experience, so that they would love me so much that eventually they would never want to separate, so that it's going to be great. And then knowing that there was going to be that safety, that it would never end, then I would be able to find comfort and confidence in being able to come out to them that I'm trans. Not the best strategy. I'm just going to throw it out there. If anyone here is listening to this and they're closeted, thinking that if you continue to love your partner the best that you can, then one day they're going to go ahead and like everything. It doesn't work like that. Just so stop. And the reality of that too is that's actually really selfish when you look at it. If all things are operating as at face value, if someone loves you so much, they love you for what they know about you, okay? And what they know about you is what you share with them. And so if they love you so much that they're never going to let you go because they love what they know about you, and then you throw a bombshell like, by the way, that is certainly something worth discussing. So that is really selfish to hope that you've built so much protection in your quality of being loved and so on that there'll be a tumble but you'll still be safe. You know what I mean? I'm happy that I've learned and grown a lot about that. And I'm not saying that it was easy. As a matter of fact, when I started my path towards transitioning, it started by realizing that I can't keep waiting for someone to love me so much so that I can finally come out to them. I realized that I needed to stop packing and unpacking my life and start allowing my life to exist in my time. And then if there was going to ever be another partner, that they would realize that even though I might not know where I will be, here's who I am, period. That was a huge change of behavior for me, but an incredibly necessary one. The longer that you keep yourself suppressed from somebody and invest in them, love is only going to lead to disappointment on a variety of ways. And let's not even consider all the possible consequences that can come with it, depending on the status of the relationship, whether it's a blooming relationship or it could be a multi-year relationship, there could be a house, there could be kids, so on and so on and so on. Like I said, I struggled with love because I thought that was the battle plan. And a lot of that was also just enforced on the fact of our society continues to strongly suggest that trans people aren't lovable. A stat that I held on to for, oh my gosh, so long, and it was a terrifying statistic for me to just know about. But there was a survey done, I'm trying to remember what university it was out of. I want to say Toronto. The principle of the survey was pretty much, would you date a trans individual? And the survey was asking these individuals, about themselves, right? What's their gender identity? What is their sexual orientation? And would you date, a trans individual? Would you date a trans individual of, trans man, trans woman, non-binary individual? Would you date an individual during their transition? Or would you date an individual who's already transitioned? And so on and so on and so on. And the one stat that really stuck out to me the most, and it still sits with me, I'm not gonna lie, it still sits with me because I still feel it's relevant to life. After I transitioned, people have asked me, I was like, well, do I like men now? And the answer is still like a hard no. Very much, into women. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm a lesbian now. Okay. but with that, like the one stat that jumps out, and it's just from my own life experience of not being as involved with the gender diverse community Because remember, I was mentioning right near the beginning that I kept a very firm brick wall between the life that I was presenting and the life that I knew was my inevitability. So I never allowed myself to incorporate with that community. The stat that stood out to me, though, was only 1% of cis women would date a trans woman. And that really got to me. Now I know like there are absolutely many other individuals who can certainly resonate with me, but that number that just sat with me. And then what got to me even more, what really got to my heart even more, was okay, so now 1% of cis women would date a trans woman. That's not even counting compatibility. That's not even counting common interests or anything else like that. And then I just felt hopeless. However, I also ended up growing empowered from that by realizing that it was like, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. You don't live to be loved. You can love while you live, and you can be loved while you live, but you don't live to be loved by others. So it doesn't matter if it's 1%, 1,000%, 0.1%. It doesn't matter. That if you do, a quality of life that has you get loved, and by fortune that from that person who loves you, you reciprocate, cool, you're a winner. At least that's my policy. I've never been interested in things like dating apps or anything like that, because the organic connection is so critical for me. And as a matter of fact, with that, like I was kind of alluding to earlier about like, would I date men? Now, I'm no stranger to the neighborhood. I want to make that very clear, but I'm just still not interested. However, I've always said before too that if for whatever reason that he was just an absolute champion and checked all the boxes off that are important to me, I'd certainly have an open mind to it. Like, I'm not wavering on that. Like, bottom line, like that is a super rarity. Like, I'd sooner see a supernova actually happen in real time first, so just for reference. But again, just to the point where like I don't slam every door, but I'm not really interested in opening it either. So anyway, to the point, I ended up coming across a word that I completely forgot about not terribly long ago that I feel describes me really well. As I alluded to just a few moments ago, where it's like, are you a lesbian? Yeah, I guess so. But I feel actually more accurately the correct word to describe my orientation is demisexual. Demisexual people only feel sexually attracted to someone when they have an emotional bond with that person. So they can be gay, straight, bisexual, pansexual, and may have any gender identity. Prefix demi means half, which can refer to being halfway between sexual and asexual. Demisexuality can be a type of gray sexuality. A gray sexual person may experience sexual attraction only rarely, or they may feel sexual attraction but aren't that interested in sex. This last part is fantastic, and it really strikes with me. Demisexual people do not feel primary attraction, the attraction you feel to someone when you first meet them. They only feel secondary attraction, which is the type of attraction that happens after knowing someone for a while. And that kind of goes back to what I was talking about with the spark. My interests always start with a spark. And there are times that I've met someone at any point in life and have known that, okay, that is a special person, but it's not a like, ooh, look at that, right? Like I rarely ever even give that a chance compared to how is that person resonating with me. Don't get me wrong, there are still qualities in every spectrum that are still important to me. That definition sits with me and resonates with me so well because it goes full circle to what I was saying about love. I don't date to find the right person. And I don't date to kill time. I don't date to have arm candy. I don't date to be arm candy. I believe in love, and I believe in working for love. I've not succeeded, obviously, being single. I've loved, and I've been loved. I've been married. I've been divorced. I've fought for relationships, and I've had relationships where I've had people fight for me, and I've certainly, lived an emotional life, but I was also so shut down because I wasn't giving all of me, and I was scared that if I was authentic, I would get abandoned. And so I didn't want to be authentic because I didn't want to get abandoned, but I was being loved for who I wasn't fully allowing myself to present as, which means that love was actually likely not as authentic as it had any right to be. Like it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. So anyway, that's to the point of demisexual. don't get me wrong, still 99.9% to the ladies. When it comes to like times in the bedroom, I'm just happy to be here. I can still play the game, don't get me wrong. When the mood is right and the situation calls for it, I can play the game. Definitely not boring in the bedroom. I want that vulnerable time to be spent appreciating each other's vulnerability. I'm not interested in having a moment and then moving on. So that, like I said, I know I've kind of ran around a bunch of things. So to answer the question finally, but I hope that I created some understanding about where I am, and I kind of feel like I left some gaps. So please feel free to ask more if you'd like to know. But let's start with this. What does someone who wants to love you need to know? Well, as I mentioned, if you want to love me, I absolutely must be able to love you back. Very rarely am I going to get sold on that. I don't love by material. I don't love by, well, like my love languages, right, are quality time and physical touch. Those are by far the two largest ones for me. Quality time doesn't always have to be like of physical proximity with each other, but that is absolutely the most ideal because it complements physical touch really well. But being able to share special time and just have that surrounding with, someone who wants to share that time with me, and even to be able to share life's joys and stories and nuances and struggles and whatever, being able to just have that life partner is really important to me. And as I mentioned, the physical touch, and it doesn't always need to be all handsy, but to just be able to like spoon or cuddle, or just that electric moment of like, hey, I'm here, right? As I was talking about love languages actually not that long ago. Gifts I appreciate, but I really appreciate gifts that acknowledge that there was some listening going on. I don't need just random like, hey, I found a PlayStation controller, here you go, even though I'm already staring at 4 of them actually. Right? You like PlayStation, so you have it. I haven't turned my PlayStation on in Lord knows how long. So even though, yes, it's a gift, and yes, I appreciate it, and yes, I know that they're not cheap, are you paying attention to me? Because I don't need it. And if anything, I'd be like, this money should be spent somewhere else, right? Let's be more responsible with it. So like, gifts are important to me, but only if they really reflect the listening, the paying attention, the quality time. Words of affirmation, as I mentioned, is something that I really enjoy, but I blend that with the quality time spent, because you think that it just kind of extends on nice conversations and whatever. I don't need a pat on the head saying, hey, you're doing good, but I absolutely appreciate the acknowledgement. Right? I'm not saying never do that, but I can find the positivity in other ways. And similarly enough with acts of service, I actually do really appreciate acts of service. I've joked with people in the past, especially as I started coming out, and especially as I really started to fireball myself up when it came to dating, where in a past life, like I said, I was always trying to incorporate myself for someone else, right? To go ahead and find my way to fit in their life. And I was saying to friends before, I was like, no, fuck, shit's changed now. Keep up with me. I'm not waiting for you. Keep up with me. If you can hang, let alone actually be able to participate, cool, but you gotta keep up. So when it comes to the acts of service, that's important to me, right? Because it would actually be really frustrating to be doing everything that I can in all of my ways and then still have to continue to do, let's just say, a lot of independent life things, when there's a special someone who would rather just be buying me PlayStation controllers. And I don't want to like trivialize it, but like super meaningful things. If I was to be part of a conference, for example, help me out with just getting some meal prep done, and I'd be doing the exact same for you in return. Things like that. Those are things when it comes to if someone wants to love me, what they need to know is like quality time and physical touch are really important to me to keep my cup filled. And if I've got a busy, occupied life, I have a lot of credit for people like single mothers who I have no idea how they cram 48 hours into 24-hour days. Insane respect. So when I say busy, it's a little star beside that, because like I said, I have a ton of respect for parents who create time as literally a defiance of space-time, and they're still able to create time to make life work. And again, as I mentioned about demisexuality, to expect me to just be a sex hound, and if I'm not resonating with you, it's probably not going to be as exciting as you want it to be, or similarly enough, I might be absolutely over the moon to be spending time with you, and that might not look like how you want it to be, I guess is a really good way to put it. And that's up to you to decide how to accept that. Love is so important to me, and I look forward to being able to share love. I love love. I work for love. It is something that just the concept of it brings me so much joy. And so if you want to love me, it's not an easy ride, but I'll make it as easy as I can for you too. I make life easy, even though life isn't easy. As a trans woman, it's a ride. And when it comes to, if you want to love me, you must be prepared to realize that I expect you to stand proudly about being with me. I expect you to stand proudly that if somebody chooses to criticize your decision of dating a trans woman, that you say yes because she's amazing and I love her, period. That you don't create excuses or whatever. I am who I am, and I'm not going to not be me so you don't have to deal with the bigotry of others. Take an hour in my shoes. Just live an hour in my shoes and realize what life is like. And I do that as me. And I'm never going to not be me to avoid bigotry. And I expect you to do the same. I can honestly even help navigate that. But don't downplay my authenticity for your safety. If I find out about that, it will not go well because I'll be hurt. Because are you telling me that you're not proud enough to be with me around others? Are you not proud enough to say that I'm worth love? Are you not proud enough to address bigotry and say that, you know what, that's not cool? You have a right and a responsibility to give Taylor a safe space and respect me for my decisions of who I get to love. Those are critical things. I'm not interested in playing this game of being cool most of the time, but gonna have to dodge reality later. I'm not playing that game because I've done that for the vast majority of my life, and I am not allowing that to happen again. Is there anything that someone you love needs to know? This is the tough part. When I love someone, they sit in my heart. And sometimes love doesn't last in a, let's say, a physical way. But it'll always be there emotionally. They'll always be in my thoughts, right? They'll always be in my hopes of making sure that they have a safe and happy and fulfilling life. There'll be many times that I can just kind of roll back on time and like, oh, what if I did this differently? What if I came out to her? What if I did this? What if I didn't do that? And so on. But it also doesn't affect where I am today. And I make that very clear that I'm allowed to reflect on my life because it happened. I don't erase my mind. But I also don't let those create the same type of havoc that they used to. In a past life, I would continue to be so miserable about all of those failed opportunities or failed relationships or failed whatevers because I felt that was going to be the last time that I ever had a fighting chance to have someone not just be loved by me, but love me back. And I've always felt like I was up against the odds against that. So every time that there was a failure, it destroyed me. Unless there's a solid reason for me to essentially turn that switch off, I'll always continue to love after I start to love. When I love, it is authentic. I love because of organic reasons. I love because of not just who I've been shown of that person, but who I can sense out of that person too. My personality type is INFJ. For my personality type, very rare personality type. Apparently 1% of the population has the same personality type as me, which goes great with 0.24% of Canadians being trans. So I'm, especially in Canada, a pretty rare breed. Love and the INFJ personality type. INFJs are intense, emotional, and intuitive, and can often come across as intimidating to others or extremely aloof. Many people will never see the loving side of INFJs because many INFJs reserve true displays of intimacy and affection for close, loving relationships. INFJs typically do not have a slew of close relationships And instead, INFJs tend to prefer a small number of deep, intimate friendships and relationships and may only have a few long-term romantic commitments in their entire life. Love is held in high esteem and is not given away to just anybody or anything. And that is so true for me. A romantic partner to me is serious. It is an investment of time. It's an investment of effort, because the person that I love is worth it. When I love you, I don't say I love you because I'm trying to capture you. I'm telling you I love you because you're worth being loved. And you bring reason to let me smile. And not based on specific things, for example. It's nice to just be able to think about you. Like, yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to just have that experience or be able to think about you or share this or whatever. If I tell you that you make the world a better place every day that you wake up, it's not just a fancy line or a fancy quote. It's because you do, right? And I say that because I love you and I love what I see out of you, right? And I know that there is a very special person that means the world to me. It's and things like that. And I definitely don't just share that with anybody. I don't love many people. I'm able to be loving, but I only love after that there's that connection, that spark, that reason to fight, that reason to incorporate, that reason to do it together, and the reason to put the effort into it. That's like, love is so powerful to me. And I don't know if there's anything better than authentic, mutual love. Like, what I would say to someone I love is, I'll fight, and I'll always work with you. Like, I'm not perfect in doing the right thing all the time, but I'm always willing to figure out what the right thing is, and then showing that it's able to be done. I learn from what happened so that it doesn't happen again. I've gone through blow-ups in the past with people who were ridiculously important to me, and it was some of the worst feelings that I've ever gone through, and I studied that. I studied how it made me feel, and I studied how it affected them, so that could never happen again, at least if within my own control. Anybody that I love knows me, and they know what my life is like. And with that, then they would know that if I am able to create that space to love them compared to anywhere else that I could be putting my time or my energy or my focus into, they must recognize how important that is. And not just how important that is, but how special they are. I don't give my time or my energy to just anybody. I give my time and my energy, my focus, my passion to people who and not just are those who I feel deserve it, but who have shown that they have earned it. When I love, I only love with one gear. It, sure, it shows in different ways, based on circumstance and whatever too, right? Because there's always a lot of additional parameters that go along with love, place and reason and so on. But when I love and if I say I love you, that is such a powerful word to me. I don't hand that out like candy. And when I say I love you, I love only in one way, and that is with bravery. In a past life, I was trying to love as of a point of desperation, to feel like I would be wanted and included. And now, when I love, my goal for love is to not have someone patch up holes, because I don't feel I have any anymore. I don't look for someone to satisfy needs. I don't believe there's someone out there who can answer the unsolved questions. I can do that all myself now, and I've never been happier to be in that position after I've learned self-love. I absolutely agree that one of my favorite ways to look at a relationship is that it's always possible to better yourself, and everyone's always doing their own journey to become better people themselves. But it is certainly possible to do that independently together. Having your partner support you while you better yourself, while you support your partner while they better themselves, is something it's just beautiful to me. When I love, like I said, it's with one gear, because I don't just hand it out. If I say I love you, it's because I love you with bravery. And you are a person who's a perfect complement to to my life. You're a person who I would love to share joys, right? Wins, successes, randomness sometimes, jokes, memes, games, puzzles, struggles. It's a compliment to just to be the cherry on top of an already perfect life. That's what I would say to someone who I love. That I love you because you, like I said, the cherry on top, the bow, the ribbon on the packaging. Right? You just make everything that's perfect that much better. I loved that question, and this went really long for an episode. But this was also I'm so happy. Such a nice episode. I hope everyone enjoyed it too. Thank you for these beautiful questions. Nice to just change gears a little bit, as opposed to the perpetual yelling for the last little while of just the world being shitty. Beautiful to talk about things that literally are joy. I hope everyone's able to take something away from those and reflect on moments of your own life that if there was a time that you would love to relive, think about that. Feel free to share it. Let me know. I'd love to know if there was a moment in your life that you would love to live over again. And same thing when it comes to love, right? Feel free to let me know what love means to you and what love looks like to you. I'd love to know those things. I'm gonna try to make a habit to ask everyone to help promote this, subscribe, right? Whether it's gonna be on Instagram or on YouTube. Please help amplify this and amplify and also share it within your own networks. I'd absolutely love to continue to see the messages go up and go out. Always looking for more to continue to help with Higher Wellers so that these projects can continue to get amplified on whether the different platforms or in a different different types of presentations or whatever. And then depending on where you are, right, whether it's local work or multi-province work or international work, if we talk about going south or anything like that. Always open to getting that added assistance. This is just such a fun episode. It's almost one that I wish I could experience for the first time again. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Have a great week. Thank you again for the beautiful questions, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what next week has in store as well. Be a great night.